Maria Delgado was standing in a Walgreens parking lot in Tucson, Arizona, holding a pregnancy test she hadn't taken yet, when a stranger's car radio drifted out through an open window and played the exact song that had been playing the night her mother died. Same song. Same station, maybe. She couldn't be sure, but her whole body went cold in the 102-degree heat. She stood there for a second, keys in one hand, test in the other, and she thought, okay, Mom, I hear you. That's the moment this story really begins. Not with the test, with the song. Maria was 34. She'd been trying to get pregnant for 2 years, the kind of trying that turns your body into a calendar and your marriage into a spreadsheet. 2 miscarriages behind her. A husband, Danny, who had stopped saying it'll happen out loud because the last few times he said it, it hadn't. So when that song came out of a stranger's window, a song her mother used to sing off-key while she cooked, a song from a mother who'd been gone 6 years, Maria didn't think coincidence. She thought message. She went home and took the test in her own bathroom, sitting on the edge of the tub. It was positive. Of course it was positive. The universe had already told her. Here's what I want you to sit with for a second. Not whether Maria was right. What would you have felt standing in that parking lot? Because I think most of us already know the answer. We'd have felt exactly what she felt. Chills, certainty, a kind of quiet, private awe. That feeling is real. That part isn't in question. What's in question is where it comes from. Over the next few months, the signs didn't stop. They multiplied. She saw her mother's favorite flower, yellow marigolds, pushed up through a crack in the sidewalk outside her OB's office. She kept finding pennies dated 1962, her mother's birth year, in couch cushions, in parking lots, once in the pocket of a coat she hadn't worn in a year. A cardinal, the bird her aunt always called a visit from someone who loves you, landed on her windowsill 3 mornings in a row during her second trimester. The hardest weeks. The weeks she was most afraid of losing this one, too. By month 6, Maria had started keeping a note on her phone. A list. Marigolds. Pennies, the cardinal. The song. Twice more. Once at a gas station. And once, unbelievably, hummed by the anesthesiologist during a routine procedure. She told Danny, I don't think this is random anymore. And Danny, practical, kind, slightly exhausted Danny, said, Babe, I love you, but pennies are everywhere. They're literally currency. Which, fair. But try telling that to someone who's terrified and 32 weeks pregnant and just wants her mother to still exist in some form, somewhere, watching. So let's actually sit with Danny's point for a second, because it's the doorway into something psychology has understood for a long time. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. That's not a metaphor. It's more or less its job description. It evolved to find signal and noise because the humans who noticed the rustle in the grass that actually was a predator survived, and the ones who dismissed it as wind sometimes didn't. We are descended from the anxious ones, the noticers. Now take a brain built like that and hand it a pile of raw, unfiltered coincidence, because the world is full of coincidence, it's practically made of it, and give it an emotional reason to search. Grief, fear, hope, a dead mother, an unborn child, and suddenly that same brain starts doing what it's extremely good at, finding the pattern and skipping past everything that doesn't fit it. There's a term for part of this, frequency illusion. You learn a word and suddenly you hear it everywhere. You buy a red car and suddenly the road is full of red cars. They were always there. You just started looking. Pennies from 1962 were always in circulation. Cardinals were already part of the world around her. The song wasn't necessarily rare either. None of that had changed. What changed was Maria. Her attention had a new job now, and it was working overtime. And then there's confirmation bias, which is really just the quiet part of the same mechanism. Maria's phone note had 0 entries for the hundreds of times she passed a Walgreens and heard nothing. 0 entries for the pennies dated any other year. 0 entries for every bird that wasn't a cardinal. The mind doesn't log the misses, it only keeps the hits. Which means the list, over time, starts to look like undeniable evidence, even though it was built by throwing out almost everything. So is that it then? Case closed. Danny wins. It was pennies and birds and a brain doing what brains do? I don't think it's that simple. And honestly, I don't think dismissing it that easily is fair to Maria either. Because here's something psychology doesn't dismiss, even if it can't fully explain it. Emotional salience. Not every memory gets stored the same way. The brain tags experiences that carry high emotional weight and stores them differently, more vividly, more permanently than ordinary ones. A song playing during a moment of enormous vulnerability isn't just a coincidence to your nervous system. It's an event. Your body doesn't experience it the way it experiences background noise. It experiences it the way it experiences danger, or love, or loss. Because to your body, that's exactly the category it belongs in. So when people say, I felt it in my body, they're not exaggerating. Something did happen in the body. The disagreement isn't over whether the feeling was real. It's over what caused it. Now let's give the other side its due, because I think it deserves more respect than it usually gets in these conversations. Across cultures, completely unconnected ones, separated by oceans and centuries, people have believed some version of the same thing, that the world sometimes speaks to us in symbols, birds carrying messages from the dead, certain numbers, certain flowers, certain songs arriving at exactly the moment we need them. Carl Jung, a psychiatrist, not a mystic, spent years studying what he called synchronicity, meaningful coincidence that feels connected even without a provable cause. He didn't claim to prove it scientifically. He noticed that human beings, across wildly different times and places, kept experiencing it. And he thought that pattern itself was worth taking seriously. Maybe that's the more honest way to hold this. Not. The universe is definitely sending literal signals. And not. It's definitely nothing but neurons. Somewhere in between. Maybe meaning isn't only manufactured, and it isn't only discovered. Maybe it's something that happens in the space between a person and the world, created in the meeting, not entirely by one side or the other. Because think about what actually has to line up for a sign to land. The song has to exist. The car has to be there. The window has to be down. And you have to be the exact person at the exact moment, carrying the exact grief to feel it as anything more than noise. Take away any piece of that, and it's nothing. A stranger's radio, that's all. So maybe the real mystery was never whether the message came from outside Maria. Maybe the real mystery is why that particular song, out of every song in the world, was the one still living inside her body 6 years after her mother died. Why marigolds Why Cardinals? Why pennies from a specific year burned into her memory without her even trying to memorize it? The sign didn't create the meaning. The meaning was already there, waiting inside her. And the sign just happened to be the thing that touched it. That reframes the whole question, doesn't it? It stops being, is the universe talking to me? And starts being, what does it say about me? About what I'm carrying, that this is the thing that moved me. Maria's daughter was born on a Tuesday in October. 6 pounds, 4 ounces. And the first thing the nurse said, completely unprompted, adjusting the blinds in the recovery room, was, "Oh, there's a cardinal right outside your window." Maria didn't cry because she was certain her mother had sent it. She cried because for 6 years she had missed her mother so much that her whole nervous system had built an entire private language just to keep her close. Songs, flowers, coins, birds. And in that moment, exhausted, overwhelmed, holding her daughter for the first time, that language spoke to her one more time, whether her mother had anything to do with it or not. And maybe that's the actual answer if there is one. Not proof, not disproof, just this. The signs we notice tend to be mirrors as much as messages. They show us, more clearly than almost anything else in life, what we've never stopped loving, never stopped fearing, never stopped hoping for. So think about your own list for a second. The song that comes on at the worst possible, most perfect moment, the number you keep seeing, the stranger who says the one sentence you needed to hear that day. You don't have to decide right now whether it came from somewhere beyond you, but it might be worth asking yourself a quieter question instead. Out of everything in this enormous, noisy, coincidence-filled world, why did that particular thing find its way to you? What does it know about you that you maybe haven't fully said out loud yet? If a story like this has ever happened to you, a sign, a feeling, a moment that still doesn't quite make sense, I'd actually love to hear it. Drop it in the comments. And if this kind of story is your kind of thing, stick around, because this channel is full of them.